Go
I have
for
unraveled
it.
myself to you guys.
And
You what?
Unraveled myself. The wires. And now just left out there like that.
You see yourself in the wires.
Yes.
Well, thank you for trying.
Usman?
Usman is out. He's in Toronto.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes.
I'm going to collect this while you.
Do you want me to tidy up today for you?
Thank you.
So you're
You had one more
collecting
piece.
yourself.
Oh,
So I wanted to.
oh, there's one more by the phone.
Welcome everybody back.
Thank you. Good to be back.
I'm glad Cheryl is back.
We are too.
We miss Usman, but yeah, I wanted to start the day just by apologizing and really reiterating that my apologizing for any perception at all that there's that it's not safe, and anything I did to perpetuate that. One of the things I said on when I invited Chuck and we had Chuck was it's a process, and I hope it's a conversation that we have. The conversation being, what is chaplaincy effectiveness, excellence, in terms of being accountable to all kinds of input, and my desire was to get a little bit more input, but the main thing I want to start today with is no additional input is more important than the safety and the support of the group and our commitment to each other and the covenant of supporting each other toward growth, maintaining the trustworthiness, and that I'm on your side, really. No matter what else, no matter what other noise or input is coming from outside the circle itself is safe. It's not a place of attack or blame or so I wanted to start with that. Cheryl and I have talked a lot this week,
yeah.
And I didn't say much to you guys.
You didn't say a
Are
thing.
you here?
I'm here. I'm trying to disable my phone.
Okay.
That's what this is about.
Are you feeling disabled?
I'm
Because
feeling
you're
feeling psychoanalyzed by Sean. That's what I feel right now. Thank you.
no, because you had identified with the wires. I was just wondering if that carried over.
I think Cheryl's back, everybody.
Shaul entered the building.
Okay.
Yeah, so part of the reason not to say much, if anything, to you guys was to keep it in the group, and to honor and use the group to do what happens in group stays in group.
May I interrupt for a minute? I just need a little clarity. You said part of the reason why you didn't tell us.
Mhm.
Tell us why.
The show was coming back.
Oh, okay.
Michael and I spoke, and I said I thought you might be coming back, but I wanted it to be
Us. Correct.
us. Yeah. So that it's
Appreciate that.
so that it hits us, and we process it together, and are really present all together with the same reality.
Alright, I mean, so, people make mistakes, okay? I make mistakes, everybody makes mistakes. I think that Chuck probably, wanted to be in, the circle of confidentiality. And I think that he probably put some pressure on you to make that happen. He certainly requested it. I can understand how you would want to say, okay, my boss is making it happen. I need to be agreeable. But that's, and then having never experienced something like go wrong like that, so why would you think it wouldn't work? So I mean, so okay, so it's a mistake. So, but so I'm a lot better with just clear primary colors. Made a mistake, didn't work. Go back to the original, model. Fine. And I said the same thing in the office to you. But it's not perception. It's not like like a perception. When you said like, I apologize for the perception or something. Almost like downgrades the incident.
Okay.
In a sense, because it wasn't my perception that Chuck said, what he said to me. It wasn't perception. It was, there was something that was said. And
Yeah, and I don't even know all the things he said to you.
I just mean the one agreed. I probably would have been able to have dealt with his differences, even though that they weren't factual, had he not said something that's so egregious to me, and that's really where we had an explosion. You just can't tell a person that they caused a suicide. It's not professional. It's not correct, and it's not true. So that's a very and from a very high place, it's huge. So it's not my perception that he said it. If you want to say it's my perception, so almost part of me is saying, well, you don't really believe me, or well, you think I'm crazy that I heard things that weren't said. So I'm just telling you that's I'm like really good with it was a mistake, we tried it, or and that didn't work, so I'm going back to the original structure, or to acknowledge that the structure was changed, in the third one from the second one, and that structural change at least caused a problem for me. I don't want to say that it would have been a problem for anybody else. Maybe it wouldn't have been, but it was certainly a problem for me.
Yeah, it became a problem.
I mean, we all voiced, at least I remember the two of us have voiced concerns when Chuck was there talking about him being included somehow. And we said that serious potential of conflicts of interest may arise, and lines are going to be blurred. And we said we're willing to give it a try. But it seems, I mean, I'm not privy to all the details, but it seems that those roles got all mixed up. So he's our boss, that will never change. Being in the circle is the change of the time. I think Shaul's situation, that I'm not fully familiar with, brought like the worst possible example of our boss yet. Uh, it's an impossible position for him. Forget about our position. It was an impossible position for Chuck. So I don't know what the new structure is, whether we are still in the same boat as we were before, or he's gonna scale back. I don't know what came out of all that. Clarity
Yeah.
would be nice.
Would it be helpful for me to clarify?
Yes,
Um,
for me. I don't know about that.
yeah. So, and part of, I think, part of what we were saying that first day was, students, it's optional. We said that many times, that if students want Chuck to have to offer feedback with learning goals or ongoing growth, or learning goals initially or ongoing growth. That's what we're proposing. If you want to, I want to make sure that I didn't mean it to be Chuck is in the circle. It was going to be unidirectional. Chuck can input, but I'm still not going to tell him what happens in the group unless he becomes a student, which isn't going to happen because he is our boss, and that wouldn't work. So absolutely, Chuck is not in the circle. I think what I underestimated was how fraught. Well, Chuck is not perfect. If Chuck has a perspective that's not the entire picture, he might come in with
Which we know he does.
feedback that's not right. And both of you said, like you said it to Chuck, you said it afterwards. I like you more than you like me. And I think you said something
You
similar.
said that to Chuck
Yeah.
when he was at the meeting?
Well, yeah. I mean, I hate to say it, but I was very clear. I'm saying, so does that mean that you're in the circle of confidentiality? And yes, it was yes. So again, I need primary colors for closure.
Yeah.
That was what was said, and it wasn't a perception. And that he was in it, and we were going to move together. And since my relationship with Chuck has been not great,
in particular,
with this type of thing on a much lower level.
not helpful. Yeah.
So
Detrimental.
but I made a leap of faith at that point because I felt it was a fait accompli that we didn't really. Chuck was in the room, he was sitting, kind of over there, down in the central office, and nobody was going to say no, we don't want you in. It was not presented in a way that there was an option, so we all said, we accepted it, and I wanted to do the unit, so I took the leap of faith, and I said, maybe this is the best thing, that could happen, because I do want to have I want to get past this weirdness with Chuck,
Mm-hmm.
and so if he's in that circle of confidentiality and communication, so at least we're going to communicate, because the man never calls me, and that man never answers my calls, he just makes cases against me all the time. So I thought, well, I don't know how to get out of that, really low level of functioning with him. And so maybe this is great. I'm going to trust it. So, go with it. I'm telling myself. Just go forward. And so, I went with it wholeheartedly. But I don't want to confuse what was said and what, and if somebody has a different, if you guys were there, you have a different impression, you can tell me that so, and I will acknowledge, they'll certainly yield, but And certainly, that was certainly my impression, and that was certainly what was said.
You talk about the confident, him being a part of the circle.
Yeah, you weren't at that one.
Correct. No,
Yeah.
right. That's what I'm asking for.
Yeah. That particular meeting.
And so
you
right
were
now-
there. Usman was there.
Right now, you're feeling like that's still not primary for you in terms of the colors. It's still
Right.
the concept of a perception, and it's you feel like it was acknowledged that he was there, and
Or what happened there. That was, kind of laid down. I mean, you were there. What was
Yeah,
your,
but
what was your impression?
I think we took the mic away from
I'm sorry.
Eric, who was trying to explain to us what is the status quo today. Going back, I'll spend 30 seconds. I think hindsight is perfect vision. If the first meeting was with us, you mentioning how we would feel about Chuck coming in, and then the next meeting Chuck comes in, would have been, I agree with him. How do you turn around to your boss and say, you're my boss, you're not my colleague in this group, and I really have issues with you being here. This wasn't going to come out of any one of us mouth. So hindsight is perfect vision. Maybe it would have been wonderful if you produced it first, discussed it among ourselves. But past is past, water under the bridge. Back to where we are today. You said something that I find confusing. You said Chuck is a one-way communication. He will give feed, but how is he going to give feedback if he has not received any information? You said you were not going to be reporting things to him. Well, if you don't report things to him, how would he know what to comment on? So when you said that, I'm gonna went like, okay, I don't understand how this works.
Right. So, part of the frame that I was coming with, part of the assumptions were, in every unit I've been part of, there is feedback, like staff feedback forms for that students get to pick who, like halfway through a unit, they'll give a two-sided form to a nurse, a social worker that they work with, who can speak to the student's performance and progress. Real basic stuff. And then that goes back to the supervisor, who can discuss that with the students. That's the kind of one-way feedback that I've felt is lacking, partly because corrections is, you guys are out there and we're not in the same place. So I was wanting to get a better sense of how to support and challenge, right? The only option with that I could come up with was Chuck is clinical enough and close enough to offer some of that. Therefore,
So we understand what led you there. So where are we now?
Yeah. It is still optional, and I will but emphasis on the optional, clearly, because
so when you say optional, what does that mean? If I like, you know what, I want to be challenged. So Chuck, what do you think I should work on? Is that what you're saying? Optional?
Yeah. But I think that the major change, and this is where it got really bad, was that I think if you guys want Chuck's input, you should ask Chuck directly. Chuck should tell you directly, and then you can bring that to the group. So Chuck isn't in the group, even in that situation.
It's only on your own initiative that you solicit.
It has nothing to do with the group. It's
It
just
has nothing to do with the
you and
group.
Chuck.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
you're saying that Chuck still has a line in, and that problem
That's the
only
came about through a line in, through you, and I don't want a line in, and that was my first question.
Yeah.
Is you know, if that was the case or not, because that's my
Yeah, that's not.
that's my red line there. You know, I'll walk if he's I mean, you just said he has a line in. I'm just saying I got to walk out the door right now because that's not okay.
The only line in is through each of you. It's not to me.
What do you mean? Who's got the line in? Who's going in through the line?
If you want Chuck's perspective, you have to
Ask for it.
ask
So
for
the
it
only
from
way
him.
Chuck has a line in is for you to hand him a line. The only way he has a bridge in is for you to make.
So he has no line in. There's
Correct.
no line.
Exactly.
It's just if I want to talk to Chuck, which is very unlikely,
Correct.
that I'll have a, you know, say, hey Chuck, tell me what to work on. You know, tell me the next person I almost knocked off. You know,
Yeah.
so you know, then that would be my you know, prerogative
Correct.
to reach out
Yes.
to him for his
Yeah.
suggestions, advice.
Yes.
May I just repeat what you said in different words so we all are on the same page? So, Chuck will not be receiving any input from you on what happens inside the circle. Obviously, he's the boss.
Yeah.
He needs to know a lot of things about this circle, about this unit, but only from an administrative point of view.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's and if I want to bring Chuck in the discussion, like he has done something now that I would, you know, just like, Chuck, come on,
Right.
you know, I can bring it in because
Yeah.
that's part of what we're about.
Because you're bringing it. It's because you're bringing it.
I'm bringing
And
it.
it's not even to the group; it's to the individual.
Yeah, but I'm bringing something he just done that I would like to talk to my group about because I'm feeling something and I want to pass it to my brothers.
Yeah.
So.
Fine.
But not me telling you something that because we agreed, you're gonna go say, "You, by the way, Sam is feeling aggrieved about what you have done, what your
Never.
feedback."
Yeah.
That line is severed completely.
Right. That's the triangle. That's the deadly
So there's no
congregational
more
triangle.
triangle.
That's the same.
Yeah.
That's what exists in triangles.
Yeah.
In congregations, and that's why I left.
Yeah.
Because of that triangle.
Mm.
Where you
By the
never
way, you
know.
never told us why you left.
Well, that was one of the reasons. I mean, it's always.
And that triangle is the source of that idea is family systems. So in a way, triangles are everywhere. They're not just in congregations. They can be in
It's
any.
like the rabbi, pastor, the imam. Some issue comes up with a person, right? And the let's say the clergy didn't know that there was an issue. Let's say offended a person, you know, whatever, walked by a person. I felt offended. You know, he only walks, you know, and shakes hands with the rich folks or something like that. That happens a lot. And the you know, the clergy member wasn't aware of it, and then, you know, some nudnik from the board says, Rabbi, you know, Imam, you know, there appears to be a you know, a problem with such and such individual, right? And that's a very unhealthy thing. That's what kills clergy and kills congregations. But the proper and more productive way to deal with this is for that board member or the president, whoever, to encourage a conversation between the two individuals, so that they can work out whatever it is. Or then that sometimes that triangle involves many triangles. So let's say let's say the rabbi, imam, pastor knew that he had a issue with the congregant and worked it out with that person. You know, went to his house and drank some tea and made it up to them. You know, and now everything's very good, and they shook hands and hugged. And now every other nudnik is, you know, still bringing it up. It has no shelf life. It doesn't end, you know, when it's supposed to end. And so those are the killer triangles. And you want to read about it? It's a book called Clergy Killers. Okay, and that's a book. It's written and it talks in great depth about that. And functional houses of worship don't operate in that manner. It's heart to heart, and they don't have meetings, whatever. They just do what they have to be clear about their mission. No, I don't.
There's a video. Just thank you.
So that had for me, that had that was the death canal, and that's what I like. I often joke and say that it's easier to work for the Department of Corrections than the synagogue because it's not a passive aggressive. That's not completely true, but I think primarily it purports to be a aggressive, not a passive aggressive. So you do something wrong, don't leave your keys on the table. You got to go to a formal counseling now, right? Okay, yes, sir. You go to the formal counseling. You said what he has to say, and it's over. You don't hear from It's not like these little mosquitoes, coming back, and just you thought you got the last one. They keep coming, and you drive a man crazy, or it makes it unsustainable to be a member of the clergy. I don't know if you've experienced that in your positions, but a lot of people do. This resonates with a lot of clergy.
Have you guys ever experienced that?
I worked as a imam of a Islamic center for 3 months.
Why did you do that?
Because that's the only 3 months that I actually worked in a position like he was or like you are. So,
Well, he might not be exactly like.
no, but he has a congregation. He has
I'm not
a church
sure.
he
I don't
goes
know.
to. He has a position within that church, an official title, an official function. I only did that for 3 months. That's the core part.
Gotcha.
But yes, that passive aggressiveness of the board is what caused me. We had the 3 months. In the contract that says either party can say no, thank you after 3 months, and I exercised that. And it was that nonsense of what happens in political between board owners, the people with them who put up the money, and the employee, the imam, and then the congregation, which a 4-way triangle.
Right. And you never wanted to go into that. You didn't like that culture and environment.
Yeah, my experience of it. I mean, I was in churches for a couple of years, and I'm sure I came in idealistic out of seminary. I was shocked at the level of, in particular, it wasn't so much the triangles as it was the clergy. There's a saying about nurses eat their young, and I found the same to be true of Episcopal clergy. It's just, a den of wolves, instead of colleagues and like supporters and a team.
God is the lost person
Love.
in that room.
How about love?
Yeah, imagine.
That's amazing.
And chaplaincy was, well, it wasn't just the negative. It was, you're running a church. It's a business.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I was much more. I want to be with people, connecting, being real, being present. Chaplaincy. There's nothing like it.
Were you the chief pastor there?
No.
Okay.
So that's one thing that.
So when you are, that's
Yeah.
also different. You
It's a
said,
whole other
it all goes to you.
Yeah.
Not that I was in a big. I'm not saying ego. I'm just saying I was in a little synagogue.
Yeah.
But the schematic was that it came to me.
Yeah.
It wasn't a very important synagogue. I'm not saying that reason.
No, but as the executive director, there's the board, the congregation, and you, and
The
that.
CEO or something.
Yeah. That you see a lot more of that than the sustained part. Yeah. But
I had a question, one for Saul, maybe one for Eric, and is, where are you now? Do you feel like all the acknowledgement you kind of need to go forward is done? Is the space clear for you? Or
Yes.
do you feel safe? What's the word? Anything missing for you?
Very nice.
Anything?
I'm glad that we talked obviously like 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago, whatever it was, with the language. I wasn't clear. Line in to me means a line in.
Right.
I don't know any other translation of that or alternate meaning of what a line in means. So I take words and they mean something to me, and I think I usually understand them for what they mean. I don't know. I just don't want to. I like clear communication. I don't like psychobabble, around things and say things that are there that not there. I don't like that. Like, let's just talk about what happened, what's real. But I could if I could deal with that.
I don't want to. I'm hearing. You're only hearing me apologize for the perception and not for the reality. And I want to apologize for the reality of Chuck being present in our announcement. That was a mistake.
Beautiful. Now I'm good.
Yeah.
That's why I raised that, because I felt that
Now I'm good.
that was missing.
It was feeling a little slippery.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be like such a nitpick, but
Well, you are, but that's okay.
but what did you mean by that he has a line in, which was just 10 minutes ago? You're like, help me understand that, because it happened so recently.
Chuck should have told you instead of telling me what his perception of that case. That's where it went off the rails, because when we sat and I said, this is what Chuck told me, you were like, what?
Right.
And at that second, that was when it was all it was dysfunctional.
It was messed up with that.
And the three, it's still dysfunctional because the three of us haven't spoken. So what I'm saying is, CB and Chuck's role are completely separate. I don't know the case. I don't have.
No, it doesn't matter. But just the word line into, I mean, you already said that that's not the case. But I'm just like thinking to myself, what did he mean? He just said that, so.
There is no line in to me,
right.
unless you want him to be part of that conversation.
So there's no line.
Yeah, there is no line.
Okay. And he always has a line to every single one of us.
Exactly.
And
that's not different.
Okay.
Does Chuck want to still have some connection with the outside of? You haven't spoken to him since this all. Is the sense that
so? My last conversation with Chuck, and Deborah, we clarified that he doesn't have a role in the CB circle other than his role as boss.
Right.
That is separate. So
Mm-hmm.
he is the boss, and he's the administrator of the department, right? But that circle, he's not.
He has no design input.
Yeah.
He has no authority to make demands or requests about anything from the group or to the group.
Right. Yeah.
having said that, I am satisfied.
And I appreciate your bringing up in a church, you can have the functional conversation and end it, and there are still mosquitoes, buzzing about saying that there is a problem. So to that, I would say, if you have any inkling if you have any feeling that Chuck is still buzzing around, or the feeling of Chuck is, bring it up and we can re-clarify if anything comes up.
Okay.
And
that's helpful.
yeah, I mean, it was, when I first, well, I don't need to go into that, but basically, Shell's decision to not be in CPE was fine and up to him, and Chuck didn't have any input, and Shell's desire to come back is totally up to you, and Chuck didn't have any input in that.
I didn't hear a word from him.
Yeah.
I didn't hear a word from him when I quit. I didn't hear a word from him when I joined.
I don't know if did he know. He might not have known that you were out of.
I communicated both things to him, and the only communication I received back was a new work schedule, which he took the liberty to fill out for me, and then he wanted it back almost immediately. And just said that I was working on it, and I wasn't ready to give him a new schedule. It wasn't done yet, because I was still thinking. And after my meetings with Eric and Deborah, spoke with you. Then I sent him back no schedule, because it's the same schedule it's the only one that's actually in effect. It's signed by 3 people. And I didn't hear any word whatsoever back from him after I said that I was back in. So that's the way my relationship is.
Quite dysfunctional.
So just the only communication was a pressured request to put in a alternate schedule that would have me outside of to solidify my non-membership in the group.
CPE.
Yeah.
Okay.
So out of pressure. Where is it? I can't understand why you haven't sent it to me. I need to have it by 12 o'clock today. The first time I'm opening up my mail, 2:30 or 3 o'clock. Because of my schedule, literally no time to go online. Needed to be in 3 hours ago. At that point, I'm sorry, I can't accommodate. It's not even reality. Like your demands are not even achievable. So that's it. That came to me less than 20, about 24 hours after I announced that I was leaving the class. That's it. That's all I received. Oh, and I got approval for my vacation. So that's good.
I certainly don't want to move away, but move away from where you guys are now. But it makes me more sensitive to the feelings of powerlessness and confusion. Help me understand inmates who have an experience of totally dysfunctional system, not knowing what their options are, not knowing what they don't know, right? A new inmate, not knowing the procedures, and what it's like to. Our role as chaplains is to be present with that and not take sides, right? Oh, the institution is, but we're tempted sometimes. Sometimes the inmate's really just a screw up and using the system. Sometimes, you know what? It is a crazy system. Being stuck in this limbo or the middleman. That's difficult.
Very tough position to be in. When the system is being used by staff to oppress the inmates, and the inmates come and complain to you, it puts us in this horrible position where either on one side you start dumping on your employer and your colleagues, or you tell the inmates what COs and others tell them, shut up, this is, so it's a tough position. I hate it when I find myself stuck between that rock and that hard place. I have a duty to my employer, but I have a duty to my brothers, and sometimes those two duties are in conflict. And the only way I found a way to talk to them about it is to tell them where I stand. Tell them that,
Who's them?
it's the them that my brother does not like. My brother's the inmates.
Tell the administration.
No, to the inmates. I mean, the administration is the administration. I mean, whenever you talk to them, it's one of two things. Are they going to talk to them unofficially and they're going to sweep it under the rug?
Oh,
or
you mean tell the inmates how you feel about it's a dysfunctional system.
Yeah, but I keep on telling them that I cannot empower you. You have to empower yourself, which is by itself is a very fraught statement to say, because to unpack it is to say, go through grievances and then sue the department, right? Because that's the only way things will change is when the court orders it and they are hit in their pockets. That's the only time when the DOC moves. Short of that, they do not move. They frustrated every request from everyone, even the most commonsensical ones, until they get sued. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They get sued, they do. Why is it that the Jews have the best outcomes? It's because there's plenty of Jewish lawyers who are willing to take those inmates' cases pro bono. Not the same for the rest of them.
Where? Which state?
Here.
No.
I mean, believe it or not, none of us gets 8 festivals. None of us can get our own food in play in there. None of us can have special foods in. It doesn't happen to anyone. Good for you. I'm not complaining. That should be the case for everyone.
It could be happening on the other side of the state.
Possible.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't see it in my territory.
Yeah. Just look at what we have today. Is what I'm saying. Just look at what the DOC allows today versus what the DOC does not allow, and refuse to allow. Refuse to. I mean, what is a problem that lasts for 20 years and they still have no resolution for it? A problem that rears its head every single week, and they still will not do anything about it. The frustration is clear. The inmates are bent out of shape, and the only thing I can say to them, if I can say it, is, God damn it, just sue the department. You'll get your day in court. They take you 2-3 years to get there, but this is a clear violation of the law. You will win. You have, even if you're stupid in representing yourself, you will still win this case. And I can't say that because I'm saying that sue my employer. That's firing offense.
Yeah. How does that feel?
Horrible. It feels horrible. I wish that the DOC will have enough intelligence, the administration will have enough intelligence to say, listen to those of us who are in this position, say, yes, I am not a lawyer, but this is a clear violation, clear violation. You're dragging your heels. There's no other explanation except Islamophobia, okay, and inertia. You don't want to do things, but you say every single say, oh, we will handle it. You've been trying to handle it for 20 years and we still have problems. COs still do not have anything in writing, and therefore it's up to a CO to deny him his religious life or not. It cannot stand. And they come to you and they look at you, you're the chaplain, you're the Muslim chaplain, you're supposed to be the one, taking care of them. And I say, I bang my head with the administration all the time to the point where I'm risking becoming an outcast because I'm complaining so much. And then they turn around and say, emit lovers, blah, 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 all that nonsense they throw at us. So yes, it's horribly frustrating. And now, eventually, people started to do that. They read between the lines and they're preparing their lawsuits, and it'll be a couple of years, and God forbid I should be called to the stand, because I cannot support the DOC position, but I cannot, so I'm going to tell them, don't call me, because I am on the right of, I'm for the law, and the law says we should give them this, so, if you're going to call me to the stand, then, be careful, because I cannot say the DOC and a one single CO has the right to deny an inmate his religious rights, okay? Which we do every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day I get a complaint. They did not pop the doors. They say they did not have the paperwork. I deliver the paperwork. My employee, my guy delivers it, gives it to every single bubble, and they still lie through their teeth and say they did not have it.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the length in Cheshire to actually get blue paper in. So, and I made it clear the reason they get blue paper because it shows on camera. So when a blue paper is delivered, the camera will see a blue paper. You cannot say you did not receive a blue paper because I'll call the video, and they stopped doing it for a while. And the department passed a regulation says I can't use blue paper. So I lost it for 2 years. So frustration upon frustration upon frustration. So yes,
Yeah.
But then that's the beast. We didn't know fully about, but we knew a little bit about. But this is the beast we work with, and we make the best out of it. I don't want the inmates to get away with what they're not supposed to get away with. Just the same way I don't want the COs to get away with the things they get away with.
I feel like you're waiting to jump in.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm trying to be with Sammy what he's saying, but I almost feel like this other thing is still there. Like, is it closed? Is it done? Is it both? So it's like the mosquito.
The phantom mosquito.
Yeah. So I guess there's a part of me like want closure for this. Like, okay, we're done. We closed here. We still there's something else, so we can. So that's what that was.
Is that a question to who was it a question to?
That was the question. There was a question to myself and for the group, I suppose. Like, are we finished with the acknowledgement and the closure, the chuck, and all of that? Are we like, all right, for this moment we're done, we can open up to other things?
Can I add to that, please?
Sure.
So if Chuck comes to you and says, Sammy did, your response is going to be, talk to Sammy, I am not his boss, this has nothing to do with CP. Is that going to be your response?
Exactly. Yep.
So for me, I got closure.
Yeah.
I'm good. I said everything I wanted to say.
Did you hear everything you wanted to hear?
I heard everything that was said.
Did you hear that I love you? Did you hear that I love you?
I heard that. It came through your eyes.
Oh, I had those. What do you call it?
Huh?
What do you call the eyes? You have a word for it.
Soft eyes.
No. In your thing, you say you give them the kind of that soft eyes, another kind of eye. You tell them. I can't remember.
I thought it was.
I don't have soft eyes, man. That's a
You didn't say you heard everything you wanted to hear.
No. I didn't say I heard everything I wanted to. No, I mean I'm not expecting. I'm not expecting perfection. I'm just expecting a safe relationship. You don't have to agree with everything. You could about what I think. You could have different. That my demand is not like you have to agree with everything that Shaul says. I just have to feel safe.
You would like me to agree with anything.
Oh, I'm sure everybody I think wants to agree with. I shouldn't speak for everyone.
That's right. Don't.
Okay. Sure. I would love for you to agree with everything, and see it the way I do, but that's not my demand. I don't need that to go on.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad there's a distinction in the same way that if Chuck has a problem with one of you and he tells me, my response is,
I don't want to know.
I don't want to know. Tell the person.
Right.
Maybe you should tell that to them. Same, if you have a problem with Chuck,
Mhm.
you can tell me and I will, my role is to support you and to help you process
Right.
what that means, and maybe if there's anything to learn.
Right.
But if you want something to change with Chuck,
That's on me to talk
That's
to
on you.
Chuck.
yeah.
Right.
So I'm not gonna. I can't agree because I don't know.
Can't agree to what?
If you say Chuck is an a-hole, da 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 da.
Right.
Um,
I don't know who's an a-hole.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's not my role.
And even if I know, it's not my role.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. All to say that in a triangle, if you're hearing two sides of a story, there's two sides of a story, and the truth is maybe somewhere in the middle.
Or
And
just different opinions.
exactly, yeah, and different experiences, and if there's a case that's really an issue, like the case,
Right.
I wish the DOC had a mechanism for following up functionally to improve quality, like quality improvement, right? But it doesn't.
How does that relate to this case?
A lot. No.
It would, we know that an inmate tried to commit suicide.
Mhm.
That is a tragedy.
Mhm.
Is there anything? Can we look at? Can we do in hospitals? You know, there are different words for it, but one is a faultless or a blameless autopsy.
Mhm.
Look, something happened. People die in hospitals all the time. People die in prison all the time.
Mhm.
We're not
Looking for blame.
we're not blaming anybody, but
Let's-
we know these things happen, and what can we do to avoid them in the future?
Right.
Come on, like, are we professionals or not? And what I always come down to is DOC is not really all that professional.
High reliability training.
Yeah, high reliability. It's
SBAR.
all over hospitals in Connecticut. You go to any hospital orientation and they're going to tell you what high reliability is. And it's a process. It's blameless autopsy. It's tragedies happen. And if you don't look at the facts on the ground and deal with it and study it and then change the system, it's going to keep happening. Can we do that without? And people aren't going to feel safe talking about it unless they're protected.
Correct.
And part of why I think what happened with the inmate, it's a dysfunctional system. In a way, we're set up to fail. The best we can do often isn't good enough. Obviously, the world is imperfect, so but we could be doing better. And it's not on any. So it's just I feel that weight.
Yeah, but I
Yeah,
think the
frustration.
whole structure of the DOC is opposite to oppose that. The structure of the
Exactly.
DOC is
Yeah.
write it up, blame someone,
Yeah.
issue discipline. Thing has to be resolved rather than just to learn from.
Right.
Would it have been helpful for you, or is it helpful for you now to have that blameless autopsy with the group, or that's closed? You wanna
No, it's okay. I wrote a whole. You read my reflection. I wrote a whole. I think it will be very helpful actually to the group to because there's a lot when you really analyze it. There's a lot of problems in the hospital thing. Also, I'm not sure what the I really don't know what the answer is. I wasn't going to now that I have a little bit of time in daylight, I wasn't going to acknowledge any possibility for making a different decision that I made in an atmosphere where the first question is how many people have you killed today? That was like it's hostile. It's and I'm not going to dignify. I'm not going to participate. I'm not going to dignify it with my participation, and that's exactly what I did. I removed myself from it because now I understand, those sort of instinctual things that I did. But it is a conversation that is important, because there's basically two things. There's the clergy parishioner confidentiality, which we understand is broken when there's a threat to oneself or someone else. That's why we were trained. And then there is the and that's the church model or whatever, house of worship model, and the DOC model. But it's not the model in hospitals where there's an interdisciplinary team and where the chaplain, having just met with a patient that may have said very personal things, brings that into the group and doesn't have any contract whatsoever, or as strong a contract, tighter contract to guard the confidentiality of the patient.
Yeah, I mean, it gets complicated. It's some of your perceptions of hospital weren't exactly right. But it's very complicated.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, so what? I mean, what? And I work in hospital, so it's quite possible. I don't know.
Yeah, and I had started to look. I mean, and I don't want to veer off too much into that, but the question of confidentiality and being part of a team in which there's a goal of whether it's treatment or reintegration or whatever. That's the tension. And what I hear you saying is because correctional chaplains aren't really part of the team, the confidentiality is stronger, or can be perceived as stronger.
And not necessarily because that. Even if we were, well, yeah, that certainly makes it that makes it a fact. But make believe that it's not a prison. Make believe it's a synagogue. So you have a confidentiality. You're not going to go to the board of directors and say,
right.
This congregant was suicidal. He's bipolar.
Yeah, and there's I did a quick Google search about this issue. I mean, I'm sure you did too. But institutional chaplains, by their very nature, have dual roles. They're clergy to people, and they're
institution.
They're aligned with the institution.
Mm-hmm.
And the goals of the institution, whether that's mental health treatment, health treatment, rehabilitation, that kind of thing. So the tension is different in every institution, and the role. So yeah, that would be something.
It will come up in my verbatim whenever we do it.
To study, yeah.
Because it feels horrible when I'm going and you're going to see in my verbatim that I go to the same guy, and he tells me different things. He's telling me because he thinks that it's confidential.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not making a threat.
Wow. Yeah, so it's a live issue, and it's worth studying and getting clarity about.
I feel dirty. He's telling me some things, and I'm going to go tell the psychologist.
But there is mental health patient. I think everything has exception and kind of crossing of the circles, right?
Sure.
And this guy is one of those guys. He's crossed the circle. It's not his confidentiality is not potentially puts him or others at risk. So
It's a hard. I'm with you. It's a hard judgment call. And, you know,
yeah, and I think you have to make that call. And so he's the exception,
Mhm.
not the rule. I mean, generally you hear stuff and you're like, okay, yeah, I shot the guy, blah blah blah. Okay, you know, that's it. That's what happened 20 years ago. And I had, as a matter of fact, I'm not sure if it's this one. One of my verbatim is about a confession. Guy made kill his wife and son. And
Was it the crime he was convicted for? Was it?
yes,
Okay.
but he said he's never confessed it in 29 years. It's the first time he's actually said it.
Mm.
So, I mean, it is what it is. I don't need to go tell anybody about that because he's locked up. But
Right.
what happens if he was on the street and the guy comes and tells you, "Oh yeah, I killed my wife and my son"? Do I like, all right, that's confidential. I'm not going to tell anybody.
I actually had the worst possible conundrum in Cheshire, so like 3-4 years ago. That's why I asked you the question. A brother came and confessed to me a murder he was not convicted for. He has a life sentence, he's not leaving. What do you do?
It's a huge question.
Yeah.
Comfort to the family, closure.
It's closure for them. Yeah, that's tough.
But you're not the family's chaplain either. His chaplain. So, well, that's tough.
And could someone be convicted for that?
Yeah, get somebody else be in jail for that.
And maybe
Most likely.
maybe if he confessed it, someone else could go free. Or I mean, how do you even know that? All these
And
questions.
how effective of a chaplain I will be to that community? Because he's gonna say the chaplain threw me under the bus.
Mm.
That's the end of my career as a chaplain. Apart from the possibility of physical threats, which never bothered me, I will never be able to speak to anybody else. So
Yeah,
therefore,
credibility.
I have lost all credibility, and I became useless to my community.
Even if you did the right thing, it's still going to have
There
that.
was no right answer in there. Anything you do would have had.
I mean, let's say the hypothetical is the moral thing to rat him out, and even if you did the right thing, it would have a damaging consequence to your ability to continue to.
It's not just me. Is that my presence there is of. I know because they tell you. You know because they tell you how important you are in their lives. So it's not just about me. It's about
Mm-hmm.
your congregants. And what is my confidence in the judicial system in this country? He is African American, so he's already guilty just by the color of his skin. He will not get a decent representation. He's going to get a public defender who has 50 other cases. It's what I'm saying is those things are dilemmas that a simple administrative directive line does not take away that I'm between a rock and a hard place. Any decision I make has consequences. So.
Maybe in a case like that, one possible option or path is, it's a lot of missing information, right? One is you tell them the truth.
Usually they are. They don't confess.
Two.
Otherwise.
Two, what was the consequence? Is some other innocent person now doing life because of that?
Mm.
And then to say to him, what have you thought about saying that?
That's what I said.
confessing that so
I
somebody
tried to
else is not
convince him.
suffering for that.
For him to come out rather than me writing
Yeah.
him out. That was my response. You know, is that, and he was coming at it from an Islamic, theological point of view, and I said, forgiveness. There's pre-qualifications for forgiveness, and you have committed a sin against God, but you have committed a sin against humans. God may forgive you the sin against him, but he will not forgive you the sin against them. So you need to deal with that. So that's the route that I took. But it wasn't an easy thing, because your first instinct is to rat him out. And then the second instinct, I can't rat him out. And then, but it took some serious self-examination to actually decide which path to take. And even that wasn't.
How long was he? I mean,
He was convicted for another crime, and he has I can't remember 99 years or something ridiculous like that. So he's not going to leave prison, even with parole and good behavior and all of that. And he was never going to leave. He's going to die in McDougal in the hospice one day. So there was no additional punishment he could have received. With the death penalty of the cards in Connecticut, he could not have a different outcome than just being where he is.
I think moral distress. There's a term for when our roles, when our jobs, and it's very common in military. It's mostly coming out in research for veterans. Moral injury is the word. Moral injury is the experience of being put in a position in which you are expected to do something that contradicts your moral compass. Veterans obviously are experiencing this as they come back and they question the legitimacy of wars or specific orders. It's also real with correctional chaplains. In our allegiance to our employer, are we in any way compromising our own moral compass? If we are, that's doing moral injury to us, and that has consequences. And we need to be aware about the choices we make. What is a choice? How much responsibility do we have? How do we live with ourselves? At the end of the day, it's not about the job, it's about my life. Can I go home and sleep at night? Can I? So moral injury is, if you want to study it more, that's one piece. Another one is that confidentiality and dual roles, and the directives are not clear.
Right. I think in my case, I ultimately, as you know, gave up the inmate.
Right. You made a choice, and you believe it was the right choice. You have input that is supporting you. And you are owed clarity from the institution, at the very least.
I got clarity from the institution, not the director. I got craziness from the director. I got clarity from the institution.
From your facility, yeah.
Where it happened, that I had the whole file in front of them. Right. And I went in there ready to, like I literally said, if you think that basically I didn't disclose it when it was first said to me. And but ultimately disclosed it before he was going to be let go. And so I'm kind of in the middle there. I did give him up, but not initially. Maybe because I wasn't sure it's not the right thing or not. I didn't give him up. I thought about it for a while. But I went in there to speak to the counselor and say, if you think that I should have given up originally, tell me. I'm okay with it. I could learn that if that happens again, then give up in the first, disclosure. That's a safe conversation. And he wouldn't let me take that on. He wouldn't let me. He said no, no, no. And we had 2 long conversations about it. And finally, he said, "I don't know how to say it to you. Let's say you're counseling a guy that is incarcerated for trying to blow up the state house." And he's talking, yeah, Rabbi, I was at that time, I was angry at the world, I was taking, a lot of drugs, and I was just not right. And that's years later now. He's reflecting. So, like he said, are you supposed to go in and tell mental health that he, tried to, that he built a bomb and tried to blow up the state house, X number of years ago? He said, no. He's incarcerated for that. The man is incarcerated for the crime. And that's what he said to me. So
I want to.
Yeah.
I'm really glad we got. I'm hearing that everybody's feeling kind of settled with the. I want to transition to the. How was this conversation? What did it feel like? Kind of the process of you. Kind of if there were a view from outside, how would you describe our conversation?
An outside viewer will look down and says, this group has been rattled, an incident happened, rattled the group. And they're sitting there a couple of weeks after or a week after. And they're trying to make sense out of it, unrattle themselves, try to find closures. And they went some way towards that. Uncharted territory. None of us have been in this position before. And I think they may end up visiting it again. I would say, doctor, what do you think? But then everybody's a doctor now. Dr. Christie, what do you think?
I think, Dr. Sammy, that it was a very difficult conversation to have.
Was it difficult for you?
No. I thought at moments it was difficult for you.
Mm-hmm.
It was uneasy, and that's understandable. And I felt like we process would ebb and flow in terms of the direction we were going in. We go towards and move away from, and go towards and move away from. Maybe that's the group's way of kind of managing the trauma of the conversation, the intensity of it. There was a moment where I didn't hear that Shaul was satisfied. He was just like he'd get to 80% and go back to 60, and vacillate in terms of his clarity and satisfaction and what he needed for him to feel safe and to move forward. We went a long way around, but we got back to it. And he, got what he needed, and that was clear. And then we hopped off to something else. We hopped to another pond far away. And then we came back. And here we are. And there was a part we almost started to really tell the story again. That's kind of when we jumped in and said, oh, let's really transition. Process-wise, that's what I saw. Dr. Shahu.
I think I'm too in it to see it, really from the outside.
I think
How is it? How do you feel now?
Yeah, I feel like it's a safe conversation, and a little angry.
Angry.
Mm-hmm. This is the way the conversation should have been in the beginning. All it required was a telephone call and a non hostile intent. So it just needed to be like that. So I'm angry that I went through hell and back. And had to be traumatized when it wasn't where it was a trauma. It was enough trauma as it was to carry that for years. I didn't think or I should have said it when I first started. It's going back in my head for years.
this incident's not recent.
The disclosure was years ago, but part of it was that he's locked up. Like he's locked up for. I don't know what they know. It turns out they didn't know that he stole the guns to do a copycat shooting of Sandy Hook, and that's what he told me.
Say that again?
They didn't know that he stole the guns with the intent of doing a copycat shooting. They knew he stole the guns.
Mm.
He said it, different reason. But you never know. I don't know what they know or they don't know. Nobody knows what, unless there's like, you're talking to them. But it was like, he's locked up, so he's locked up. So, but let me find out when his discharge date, and I will remember him to see if I'm going to say that I'm going to watch him, to see if I feel.
So you have
I carried it for years,
carried that, yeah.
and then
It's a perfect example of we are put in the place of having information that's incredibly heavy.
Mhm.
And I hear that you made a judgment call for public safety.
True.
That
ultimately,
that's the ultimate. You decided that was the most important thing, and what I'm struck with is just how heavy that is.
Yeah.
And that's
and if somebody in a safe environment said, I think you could have told them when you first heard it. Now, if that was their opinion or something. And then with my boss, and they directed me as
you
such.
would have heard it very differently if it
I
had
would have
been
said,
communicated differently.
I would say, okay. That's what I think is professional.
Couple of things.
Last word.
Last one, okay, I'll make it short then. One for my Dr. Show. Chuck behaves in a certain way based on his personality. You have seen the worst example of it, perhaps, trying to tell you is he is not seeking you out in this, because we all, at least I have felt similar knee-jerk reactions from him on situations I had with him. I give him credit that in my case, when the dust settled, he apologized for his jumping the gun and, me reacting to a situation that he did not seek all the information about. He just received an email from someone, and immediately I get that nasty, harsh response that, then he calms down, finds the information, and then he moves on. In my case, all three of them, he did come back and apologize for it at the end. So I give him credit for that. So I just don't want you to think that there is something special about you that he's
Thank you.
holding you up specifically. It's just in his nature.
Thank you. That's very comforting.
For what it's worth. Eric, I think you were uncomfortable describing what the situation is, and I think between the three of us, we kind of forced your hand to say what you were dancing around when we all talked about that, the lines in this, that, and the other. I think we kind of did not accept that vaguer language and wanted to hear from you, and we think we kind of forced your hand into it.
I'm glad you did. Yeah, I think clarity is really important. Yeah.
And my sense of it is, you really want that extra supervision that we do not have. And I understand that Chuck became the only possible avenue of it. And on one hand, you regret what has happened, but on the other hand, you are lamenting the fact that, I still don't have that. We still don't have that situation. And Chuck was always going to be a bad choice, simply because of his position with us, and because of the fact, what does Chuck know about Sammy? 90% of what Chuck knows about Sammy is the negative things he hears. And what does he know about Shaul? Probably 90% of what
by virtue of his position. And
because he only receives complaints.
Yeah.
Rarely I have had, it has happened, thank God. A deputy warden will call him and says, that chapel you've sent us is just like a godsend.
It's happened one time, so don't keep repeating it.
So it doesn't happen that often, right? But God forbid,
He does that. He does say nice things sometimes.
No, I do not view him as an enemy. I view him as a supporter of my position. But that does not take away from the fact that he reacts quickly sometimes, and he admits that he does. So,
Well, thank you. I'm glad you're back.
All of us are. I spoke too soon. Some of us are.
I was hoping to stay with it.
Do we need a quick break, and then we'll do...
Yeah.
So it's 11.